Where the paranormal becomes normal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show, Alienate UK Paratalk Wednesday. Andy's making me lead things today, so say hi to everybody. We have Sober, Joanne, Margaret, Stuart, Jojo, Grasshopper, Andy. So we're here today with Andy, obviously.
Hello.
And our guest today is Richard Moschella. Richard is a spirit artist, a medium, paranormal investigator, author, husband, father, friend. Anything else you need to add?
I think you covered it. Thank you for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you for coming on.
Richard is over from my neck of the woods with New Jersey Paranormal Project. Right, that's the official. Wanted to make sure I got that one right.
Yeah, the New Jersey Paranormal Project. We started that many years ago, back in 2007. Just going to places and starting to do investigations. That's when we just had like a point and shoot camera and a digital recorder, and we try to capture stuff, and and then how far things have advanced to now. It's like we've come so far.
Yeah.
So Andy has never seen spirit art before.
No, completely new to it. I've heard of it, but I didn't. To be honest, I don't have a clue what it was. I didn't know if it was just. This is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like if you're out on an investigation, you're like just doing a painting or a drawing of the area. But then
I'm sketching the essence of the spirits. Yeah. The essence of the spirits.
Of like the area that you're in.
Yeah.
And then Nicole was like, you have it.
Yeah, it just comes through like you're watching like a movie. Like when I'll enter a place, like for us, one of the locations that I investigated with Nicole was the Patchett House. And I remember going into the Patchett House, and all of a sudden, this picture of this young boy came. And I started sketching the young boy and capturing, how he looked and where. And I felt that he was outside. I felt like he was attached to a tree that was in the parking lot of the Patchett House. So I shared that while we were having the investigation. And we started getting things that were saying, I'm over by the tree. And that really, with the spirit art and the investigation, kind of led us to go out to the tree with a digital tape recorder. And the Bandoffs, who came out to the tree with me, actually got a little boy saying, I'm 10. So,
wow,
saying his age, it's a young male's voice. I sketched him by the tree. And then while the rest of the team are inside and they're using a ghost box, they're getting a child again saying that he's over by the tree. So all these different points of the investigation were pointing to the tree along with my spirit art sketch of the young child. So that's a great piece of evidence. When you could have the sketch that's done using mediumship, combined with the sketching, and then all these different devices that are picking up the child saying he's over by the tree. So that's how I think spirit art really works with a paranormal investigation. It also gives a face, right? It gives a face to the spirit communicator, and it helps us elaborate while we're communicating. It gives us questions to ask. Well, were you a child, or were you an older man? Did you have a beard? Because we have a sketch here, and he drew you with a and this engages them. It captures their essence.
Yeah. So how
and
long
there's
have
many
you been doing?
spirit.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, how long have you been doing it?
Spirit art for me started back like 5 years ago, where I've always been into like learning about mediumship and advancing myself as a working medium. But 5 years ago, I actually thought, I'm like, can I put down what I'm seeing in my mind's eye onto paper? And it's kind of funny because a few years before that, I started heavily getting into comic books with like my kids and sketching Batman and Superman. And I started watching videos online on how to draw faces and noses. And all of a sudden it kind of coincided with me saying, well, let me see with my mediumship if I could draw what I'm seeing. So that kind of helped me, right, capture the faces and the essences, because now I knew how to draw like a strong jawbone and put ears and eyes and hair. So that kind of helped aid me in learning that. So about 5 years ago, I started when I went on investigation. It was a historical place, and I start sketching. And I said, the man looks like this. He has a double-breasted suit. He has a kind of like a handlebar mustache. He has a pocket watch. And I showed the docent at the historical society that we're investigating. And she goes, oh my goodness, come with me. She took me into a back room, and they had a picture of the location. It was the person's father who originally owned the property. His picture is not up anywhere in the place. She goes, but you drew him, and you drew how his pocket watch was attached to his, coat, and he had that handlebar mustache. Now, my pictures back 5 years ago did not look like they did today. It was more close to a stick figure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, how's your drawing? Did you study art, or are you just naturally good at drawing, or are you terrible at drawing?
Like, you start seeing like the essences of this is just some stuff that I did in a class that I was teaching for the spirit art. And it's just capturing the essences, the way the woman looked, if she was solemn, the male with like the mustache and the glasses and the balding head. Sometimes spirit's a little vain when they come through. They carry their vanity. So sometimes they want to show themselves with more fuller hair. So all of a sudden they'll be like, you drew my dad, but you drew him like when he was 40 and not when he was 60. Well, that's how dad wants to be shown. He doesn't want, when he gained a little weight, when he lost a little hair on top. So, but spirit is always amazing and so intelligent when they come through with the ways that they get for me to draw them. There was a sketch that I did for a woman where they came through, and I saw the photograph, right, Andy? I see the photograph in my mind's eye, and I said, the mom and dad, they're right next to each other, and the father has his hand around. I said, I'm just going to draw the entire picture. So the woman had big hair, he had big chunky black glasses, white t-shirt, and I sketched it, and I showed it to them. I go, you have this photo. And a day later, they sent me the photo. So I had the sketch that I did, and then they had the photo that kind of coincided.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing to see it in action, because like sometimes we're at an investigation and you'll be drawing and the spirits are responding to your drawings.
Yeah, and a lot of time I love doing that with Ron and Lourdes with Staticon, because it's live. You're listening to that live, and that's happening. You're not going back. So as I'm sketching, they'll say, Richard, sketching, like they're acknowledging that I'm sketching. And then I'll show the sketch, and they'll be like, do you think this looks like? Yes, pretty good. Like it's truly amazing. I love working with them. Yeah, in real time, hearing their voices come through, and again, I'm working with them. We're doing an event together in a a father came through with lung cancer, and I'm like, I'm drawn to the lungs. I kind of want to draw lungs on the sketch, and he had an issue with that at the end of his life. Connected to the man who was sitting right there in the front row with me. He's like, you drew my dad, and he passed with lung cancer. Wow. How I was taught how to do it is you capture their essence. You know, we're not going in there, and I say this at the beginning of all my demonstrations. These aren't sketches you're going to hang up on your wall. These are sketches that capture their essence, the way their hair was combed, things they wore on their face, if they had glasses, if they loved earrings, little studs, or if they were really flashy and flaunty and they wore big earrings, necklaces, the way that they dressed even comes out, the size of the face, a thin face, a fuller face, happy, sad. And this is all what encompasses that photo. Then I look at their hands. Another thing that I want to see is their hands. I want to see if they're soft, if they're worked hard. And this usually gets into what they did in life. If they had rough hands, I'll be like, well, I'm seeing more like machinery, more working with. If they had softer hands, then immediately I start seeing paperwork start like piling up, and like the data entry or typing, if we go way back, right? You know, and then it just stacks itself from there. I kind of ask them to show me important things in your life. Show me things that you're proud of, your achievements. So that also comes through, and then I'll start bringing up that in the reading. Okay, this is what they're showing me. I was doing a reading for a woman, and the image of Garfield, right, suction cup to a car window, pops in my head, and I'm like, well, how does this apply to my reading? This isn't for me. During the reading, I say I have to bring this up. Spirit showed me an image of Garfield. Well, the woman's grandfather lived in Garfield, New Jersey. I grew up in Lodi, which is a town that's right next to Garfield. So if Spirit showed me the town, I would think that I was thinking about just driving on the streets around my house. But because Spirit came in with that symbolism of Garfield, I knew it was for my sitter. So I brought that into my reading, and that connected her with her grandfather. So Spirit is always intelligent on how they respond. Even when I do the events with Lisa Morrison, and we do the double linking where there's two mediums working back to back, you know, she'll be getting stuff, I'll be getting stuff, and I'm sketching it. And we present that. I'm standing up in front of a room. Man has rough hands. I sketch the father, and I say, he's showing me a dollhouse. There's something to do with a dollhouse. And she goes, my father never finished the dollhouse that he was working on for me. There's your clincher. That piece of evidence, I have no way of knowing that your father was building you a dollhouse and never finished it, but that still came through from dad to his daughter. And that's very important.
Sorry, I just got. Have you ever? Because someone just put in about this one. Do you have remote viewing capabilities? But I was going to ask you, do you ever do it where you're not on location? Say you're at home now, or wherever you are, and you've got a link like this, and then
I do all private Zoom readings for people. If you went on my website, I do like private Zoom appointments, and it works the same way. I'll be sitting down, I'll link into Spirit, and I'll just start with the essence of who's coming through. And I always say it's the strongest person who's stepping to the front of the line. Sometimes you'll get grandpa, sometimes you'll get a cousin, sometimes it always changes to the person who comes through with the strongest message. And the essence comes through, and that's what I communicate. So it's done whether I'm on location, whether I'm doing private readings one-on-one. I do parties for people. I go over to a home where there's 6 or 7 people, and I do readings for the entire group. And it's all bringing forth that spirit art mediumship, which is heavily evidence-based, because if I sketch you a picture and you're like, doesn't make sense. They didn't look like that. Luckily, I mean, I've worked with Spirit for a while now, and everything does connect. And I'm proud of that, because that I work very hard at. I take classes for it. I've read. I'm continually trying to make that connection stronger and stronger. And no matter what we do in the paranormal field, I believe Spirit understands that your intention, right? Your work ethic, and Spirit wants to work with you if you're showing that you want to work with them. So when you show up for Spirit, Spirit shows up for you. And you could say that from anybody who does digital recording, the ITC work. If you're doing any kind of investigation, if you're in this for the right reasons, you'll see those responses are better, and spirit wants to work with you. And and that's the thing. When you show up for spirit, they show up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely helps when you have people with, high vibrations, as they say, working together for good purposes. Like the teams that you assemble.
Yeah.
I am always so honored to work with, because they're all amazing people who do things for the right reasons.
And that's
Ron,
why I keep
Roy,
working with you.
Allie, Handoffs, Jenny, everybody. It's a good group of people.
And when you work with a good group of people, you want to keep doing that over and over and over again, because it's very hard, especially in this field, to find people that are in this for the right reasons. This is not a carnival act. We're not trying to scare people, and that's something that starts happening when you get into the field. Like, we there are things out there where we want to scare people with demons and devils and all this stuff. But when we come into this, and especially how I built what I do, is number one, it's healing. Okay, to know that there is a continuity to life, right? That there's something beyond the physical body when the physical body dies.
Yeah.
Second is to educate them that connection that we have to all of our loved ones is still there. Okay. The only thing that we lose is the physical. It just changes shape. Okay. Yeah. And we move more into a soul to soul communication. And they're always there. They're literally a phone call away. It's consciousness. Our consciousness links spirit with us. And that is what's always there. They know what we're thinking. They know that we miss them. They're there for our weddings and our birthdays and all those important milestones that you think that they're missing. Well, when we do these readings, when we do Staticom, they're there in an instant. Okay. Yeah. And that's so fulfilling when you could show somebody that. And if they're experiencing grief, they walk out of that with maybe a little less grief. We're not going to take it all away, because you know what? We're humans. We still miss that person, right? But when they walk away with a little bit more of a knowing that we are still connected, that bond that we thought was gone is still there. And that's why mediums that are in this for the right reasons are doing this for the right reasons, is to bring healing and to prove the continuity of life, that, death does only stop the physical, that soul consciousness, that light that made your loved one who they were, still transcends physical death.
And you're pretty unique with that, because not a lot of mediums work with other mediums like you do. You work with Lisa Morrison. You work in your mediumship trio with Kim and Jill.
Kim, Geyer and Jill Marie Kelly. I love working with people. Like that's one thing with me, and that's why I keep working with you guys. There's no ego, okay? Because with ego, you're edging God out, right? And with ego comes all that other stuff, envy, and I love working with people, because when you bring all these different people in, you get more of a well-rounded investigation. Yeah. When you bring other mediums in that are credible and competent, okay, you could work with mediums that aren't, and it becomes crazy. So that's why you got to really make sure the people that you're working with are really in this for the right reasons. Okay. They're competent and confident. And a competent medium knows how to present the facts, knows how to give a soul to soul reading, because we could go into an event as a medium and be like, okay, Dad did this, and this, and this, and this next. Well, no, because if I have 3 sons, his relationship to each one of those sons is going to be different. And it's my job to get that relationship from Dad and convey a message to you, and you that will be different. So maybe Dad was more hard on you, but the middle guy got away with a lot of things. But then again, he got hard with the youngest again. And this is stuff that comes through. And when you could provide that, when you have that connection with spirit, you could get more than just the bullet points. Okay, you could paint that person's life back together for that sitter. And you could bring forth the acknowledgments that they didn't know that Dad heard. Maybe he was on his deathbed and he was in a state where he couldn't speak, but they were in the room and they kept wondering, did Dad hear us? And all of a sudden, in your mind's eye or audibly, sometimes you hear, I heard them, you know, and you convey that. And that again helps that little bit of grief. You know, if we could take a little bit away and let them know that dad is still there, and dad wants to, you know, notice that the one graduated college. He's showing me you walking down an aisle and getting a piece of, yeah, I graduated college like last month. You know, this is stuff that you could bring forth in that soul to soul reading. And this is what Lisa Morrison does. This is what Kim Geyer, Jill, you know, Kelly, you know, and I love working with them. So that you'll see a ton of events with the Mediumship Trio. You'll see I'm doing a ton of events with Lisa, and they keep happening. Because I said to Lisa, I said to Kim and Jill, as long as people keep coming and they walk away with positive experiences, we'll keep doing this. And the reviews and everything else that once we're done with these events, they come in and people are like, you know, they're holding up their sketches. And now with Lisa, the last event that I did with her at Hudson's Mill, people are bringing sketches of when I did an event with them a year ago. And they're like, this is the picture you drew of my, you know, son. And this is a picture. Yeah. So it's cool that they're coming back and they're getting different people. Yeah. So it's not like, okay, here's, you know, another sketch of the same person, you know,
same thing. Yeah.
They're coming back and their reviews are, you know, so fulfilling for me because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that goes into this. A lot of education, classes, and just to know that I'm showing up for spirits meeting me, and a famous mediumship spirit artist named Coral Polge, who lived across the pond back in the 1960s and 70s. What Coral Polge said, and I hold this remark very dear to my heart, is we're only telephone lines. Okay, we are only the telephone line for spirit to use. So again, it's somebody taking ego out of it and saying it's really them. You know, we have to give credit to spirit for using us, but just using us as that telephone line to let that communication flow.
Yeah.
Do you think everyone has abilities to an extent? What do you think is the difference between people who are more naturally gifted and use it and people who aren't mediums?
Well, I wrote about this in my new book, Facing Spirit, how I feel a lot about mediumship and psychic abilities is I believe everybody's born with the ability. It's a God-given gift. We're all souls, right? So we all have the hardware, but it's learning how to use the hardware and how to implement the hardware that we kind of get stuck. We all have intuitive knowing, intuitive nudges. We call them gut feelings. I had a gut feeling about that person that came into my life that they were bad or they were good, or I shouldn't have gone that way home from work and there was an accident, or I got off earlier before the accident. You know, I had a gut feeling. Well, what is it? It's an intuitive knowing that you shouldn't have done something, or someone was bad, or there was a toxic thing that was happening and you had that gut feeling. Well, it's intuitive knowing. So we're all intuitive, and that still bridges out of that same seed of psychic and mediumship. And it's just learning how to work with it, learning how to receive, to know if it's coming to you or if it's coming from you, if it's coming from your thoughts or if it's coming just out of the blue. And that means it's coming to you from spirit.
Yeah.
And you could learn this. You could sit through different courses on beginning mediumship and like intermediate to advanced. And you could learn how to use that tool. It requires meditation. It requires learning how to quiet the monkey mind. And just sitting and knowing yourself and knowing how to implement it and when. And through 5 years, 10 years of learning how to work with mediumship and reading books and talking to people about energy and auras, you really start learning how energy works and flows and how the spirit world is very close and willing to communicate with us. So I feel that we could all learn how to do it. It's like how you learn how to play the piano, and you might be better than me, but Andy's a rock star. You know, we all have that ability of learning the instrument, but at what extent, it all depends on your dedication. You know, you talk to some guys that are in bands. They're like, I practiced every day when I got home from school, like Bruce. You know, I'm from New Jersey, so let's credit some Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, he's like, I practiced every day when I got home from school. I took my guitar out, and he would drive his father crazy, you know, just practicing and practicing. Well, the same thing applies to your mediumship and anything that you really want to be good at. You got to put the time in. So if you sit in classes every week to advance your mediumship, spirit meets you. So they see you're putting in the time and they want to work with you. So I would highly suggest, if you want to advance would be the better word. If you want to advance in your psychic, mediumship abilities, or just intuitive abilities, start taking classes. And you can find that anywhere online. They can always reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to tell you about the places that I've learned from and the people that taught me and the book that I read. And that's how I advanced. And I believe everybody has the ability. It's just learning to work with your hardware and learning how to implement it into your life.
Excellent. I'll have to look into that. Oh, just finding the time to do it. But that's the most difficult bit, is having spare time to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just
and trying to find that time.
Yeah. I need to retire.
I got a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 4-month-old. So
you're not busy at all.
But you still, you have to find time to devote to yourself. Whether it's a 20-minute meditation that you do at the end of the night to wind down, or if you do it when you're on your break at work, you find a quiet place to go and just quiet the mind and kind of expand and let spirit come in. You'll really be amazed at how you start picking up things. And working with you, Nicole, I mean, you go into places and you have nudges on where to put equipment. I feel like this room might be better than that room. Well, what's kind of informing you about that? You're having that intuitive feeling, that intuitive knowing that this room's going to give us better results than this room. And working with Lisa too, that you work with, Lisa knows, let's put the REM pods here and let's put the trigger objects there, and you get results. So I think you ladies on the entire team are very intuitive.
We have 3 mediums.
Wow.
That's all I'm claiming. 3 of them sensitives, but
love full moon paranormal. They're all intuitive.
Yeah, Nicole just goes in and doesn't care, and I'll go in there.
Yeah, lock me in the attic.
Yeah, but me and Nicole have got a question for you. What we was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad I remembered.
And for the chat too.
Yeah. So do you want to?
We've done it before, a little experiment. So we were going to try to project something, an item, and everybody in the chat try to tune in, and Rich try to tune in and see if you can guess intuitively what we're thinking of. We're going to be thinking of the same item.
And it's an item.
It is an item.
Yeah.
It is an object.
So if we start thinking about it now, should we do it like towards the end?
Okay. Yeah, we can
Is
do
it
that.
okay, Richard? Or can you do it?
Sure.
If you do it in a short time period, it's entirely up to you.
We'll give it time to simmer. And the chat can guess.
Give it another 30 minutes. Yeah?
All right.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
And then we'll just keep... Right, so I'm going to write this down now.
Otherwise, he'll forget. Because I forgot. I was supposed to remind him.
I actually messaged and said, please remember, because I will forget. She's like, it's fine, I will remember.
I would have remembered at some point.
So, yeah. Right, so I've wrote that down. So I'm going to keep looking at that and trying to project it. So, in fact, I'm going to stick it to the bottom of the screen.
Right. In the meantime, I have another question for you, Richard. So what was your aha moment where you were like, I can do this? Did you have one?
Well, it started for me as a kid. I was very open to the paranormal. My family, I remember gravitating always towards the adult table when I was a kid, 8, 9 years old. And I would hear my father telling stories about his side of the family, about seances and stuff that would scare, the SHIT out of me as a 8 or 9 year old. So I started to, feel things, see things. I remember many nights where I would see like the handle starting to move in my bedroom, and I would be laying in bed and feel like kind of hands kind of pressed down on the blankets, but I didn't feel like I was threatened. So I kind of just put the covers up and be like, just go away, just go away, So I would feel that. And then as I started getting older, I did my best to block it out. And then I started, once middle school, high school came, it was like I would go into someone's house and be like, I see, your grandmother, and I don't know how to tell you about this. So again, blocking it out, not wanting to be the crazy person, right? But then in high school, I just started fully embracing it. I just started, I was with a girl. I was dating her for about a week. She goes, I want you to come home. I want you to meet my parents. So I go to her house and I'm like, well, I also met your grandparents. She goes, what do you mean? She's like, they're, dead. I'm like, well, they were in the living room, and I could show grandma with her bouffant hair, and grandpa had like these thick glasses on, short though. He's short and she's taller than him. And she told her mom, and she went into the bedroom. She comes out with the picture and she goes, this is them. I go, yes, it is. And long story short, we dated for about another week, and I never heard from her again. That was it. So they're probably like, that guy that you brought over. But I told her that her grandparents are there, and then the picture matched how I said he was shorter, she was taller. So then it was that kind of like started little things like that. And then we're also talking about the early 2000s, so 2001, 2002. There was a little show that started airing called Taps. With the Ghost Hunt show. Okay, and that was that initial spark. That kind of was like the big bang moment where poof, where paranormal television was born, right? From ghost hunters. And I remember watching those shows in like the early 2000s and really being like, oh my God, like you could do this. You could go to these places with equipment that you could get at Walmart and cameras and audio recorders, and you could try to document spirit communication. So I started doing that. And, again, with that, the mediumship would come in. I'd be like, in my mind's eye, I'm seeing, the man, he's over by the mansion. He's on this side of it. He keeps walking the perimeter, walking. So I would go there with the tape recorder and I would start getting EVPs from him. And then within the last 15 to 10 years was the development of it, like learning that, wow, you could sit in classes and advance yourself as a medium through Arthur Findlay College, which is across the pond by you, Andy. With that, it's a school dedicated to psychic and mediumship. So you could go there and learn every kind of course that you could imagine by credible mediums that have been working in the field for 30, 40, 50 years. And you could sit through classes, even through Zooms, and learn from Paul Jacobs and Sue Wood and these incredible, talented mediums that, learned from talented mediums before them, like Gordon Higginson. And Gordon was one of the most talented mediums from when he was a child. So, that's really where my development started, is knowing since I was a kid about it, knowing that I had that connection. My grandmother had that connection and did seances and stuff, that it did run in the family. And then it was just trying to embrace it, trying to figure out, how do I tell my friends? How do I tell the people I work with? And that was a huge thing. A lot of mediums just go by like a fake name, or, coming out and saying Richard Moschella medium was like, well, are people going to drop off my friend radar or what?
I was going to ask, are you prepared to pass it on to the next generation?
Well, my son Jack, when he was born, would stare into the corner of like our living room and go, Pa's there. And I'm like, Pa. So I thought about it all day, and I'm like, you know what? I called my grandfather Pop. And I'm like, let me get a picture of Pop on my phone, picture of Clint Eastwood, strong old American man, and a few others. And I started scrolling. I said, Jack, are you able to show me Pa? So we go through Clint Eastwood, we go through Dustin Hoffman, we go through a bunch of older actors. And there's the picture of my grandfather. And he stops. He goes, Pa. And I'm like, okay. He's visiting us. And for like me, it was great to know that he's coming around, that he's still involved in the kids' lives, in my life, and he wanted to meet his great-grandchildren, right? But I did tell him, I'm like, Pa, can you just like maybe visit me or wait for him to be a little older? Because, you know, he's a little freaked out. But I definitely know that my older boy definitely has the ability, and it's very strong. And he's very empathic. That's another. He knows what people are feeling. He's very sensitive to that, and rooms. And if he goes into a room where people are fighting, or, you know, like, he's very much aware. And that's another sign for me, is being empathic to situations and people. Yeah. So I think it is being passed down. So
quick question for you both. Did anyone just hear a laugh, or is there somebody else in the room with either of you?
No.
Sounded like a little kid laughing, and the timestamp we got was about 35:25. It was like a little hee laugh.
Really?
Yes.
We have to listen back.
The only person in the room with me is her.
It's that. Get rid. You need to throw that out.
Yeah. Got a Chucky situation going on there.
Yeah, it sounded like a little kid. That's why I was asking. With you, Richard, having younger kids, I thought it could have been one of them walking past.
No, they're not. They're not home from school yet, so the house is still quiet.
Yeah, but it's around 35:25. So I thought better check and do a timestamp on it.
Yeah, write it down.
What a show! You can capture some EVPs.
We've had quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a few, but only caught one on actual recorded. The others have been before we've gone live or after we've finished. But when I first started talking with Nicole, which at one point she was known as a cat ball lady, I think she still is. She was getting orbs behind her all the time. And it's like constant.
She makes these cute little cat ball holders.
Well, I'm still waiting for my.
I forgot again. I have to send it out. I have a package for Andy that I have to send out with the little ghosts.
So when I walked into one of the first investigations with like you guys, and I saw you using this, I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, this is truly genius. It lifts the cat ball above the floor, so no movement would trigger it, and amazing. But I saved this one that you gave me. It's right here on my mantle. So when I do all my podcasts, he's always here with me.
Aww. You gotta turn it on the podcast, see if it goes off in the background.
Right.
I sent you a sort of link, didn't I? There's one on Temu, so I just sent you the link to it.
Not the same.
Well, I won't keep going on, but we've only been waiting about 6 months, so not long really.
I have admit I have to remember to physically send them out. I have the envelope mailer. I have the ghosts.
You've just got to get up and do it, right?
To go to the post office.
Well, you guys got so many events that are going on with full moon paranormal has like events going on like every other week. I don't know how you guys have like the steam to just keep doing these, and they're amazing. They're selling out. You're all over the place.
Thank you for saying that. We can do what we do because we work with great people like you and with everybody else, that we investigate with. That's what gives us the steam to keep going.
See, I'm so jealous. I'm in the wrong country.
And the celebrities, Ryan Kano. I mean, you guys get the top tier people come out and investigate with. So I mean, that's another perk of investigating with them. They always have like a featured guest. Alexander Holzer. I mean, paranormal royalty. So
and Rich Moschella.
Wow.
Author of how many books now?
7.
7.
And I'm working on number 8. I'm like halfway through. So
what got you into writing? How did you go from investigating to writing?
It goes back right after high school. I got heavily into fishing. And I started to write for fishing magazines. Actually, I started to like write for Field and Stream. I wrote for Bassmasters and all these other fishing magazines about the tips and things that I was doing in the fishing world. I was sponsored for a little bit. They wanted to send me rods and lures. But again, how spirit puts you on the path that you need to be on, right? I learned how to get to the gist of an article within 1,000 words, within 500 words, how to present your topics, how to hit on things, how to write a longer article, and how to convey that information pretty quickly. So once I stopped fishing, we had Jackson, he's now 5. So I started saying like, well, with my paranormal stuff, I wonder if I could write a book. Wonder if I could put a book together. So My New Jersey Paranormal Project was my first book. And it took me probably a year. I remember just going back and forth on like empty pages, being like, okay, and no. And then just putting it down and then coming back to it. And then right then and there, about 5 years ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finish this book. And it just started flowing. The first book happened. And a lot of people loved it. They're like, it's your story. It talks about my parents. It talks about, very important things on how I became a medium and how I wanted to investigate the paranormal field. And then the other ones, once you start writing, once you start putting those words to paper and you start developing those stories, the books start coming. So Spirit Voices, Spirits in History, Case Files of the Paranormal, Extraterrestrials in the Hudson Valley. Like these were things that just organically just started flowing. And a lot of people ask that, like, how do you write so many books? I always start with one page and I focus on that page, and the next, you don't look at the long project, you look at the short project, you look at a chapter. Okay, I need to put about 15 to 20 pages here. And you'll be surprised, in 1 week, you'll have that. And how many days and weeks in a year? I think we all could write books. It's just, again, that dedication of sitting down. Some days things flow, some days things don't, but you still have over 300 days to write it.
Yeah.
So I, just sit down, and after one project, I'm usually sitting on more interviews and stuff. Like for Facing Spirit, the next book that I'm writing is going to be a continuation of this book, because I had more interviews with more mediums on how to develop and how to grow mediumship, also on how to learn how to embrace your skills as a medium, talking about spirit art. So the next book is just going to be more of that. And when I brought it to my publisher, they're like, you can't publish a 400 or 500 page book. That's going to be an opus. So I kind of condensed it to just roughly about 300 pages. And I'm like, I still have like 200 more here. So I'm working that now. There's some great interviews with some people I've read when I was a kid. There's Raymond Moody. I don't know if anybody knows him, but he's famous for his Life After Life books. I had 2 hours that I had to talk to Raymond Moody. And I talked, I said to him on the phone, I said, Mr. Moody, I read your books when I was a kid, like in high school, and I was getting interested in the subject of life after life. If I had to tell that, 17-year-old kid that one day he was going to talk to you on the phone, I would have passed out. But again, spirit puts you where you need to be for these opportunities to come. So I'm very, very much grateful for that. And to be able to write and to be able to share my stories with people. And when you do an event, people come up to you, they're like, oh, I read this book and it's amazing. I really loved what you wrote about, and you write about true stuff, and it's not all about the demons, and that's the thing. And that's at the core of what I said when I started, is to show people that, the physical dies, but that light that made that loved one who they were still transcends physical death.
No, thank you.
So, and that goes through all my books.
Yeah, I'll if you send me the links, I'll add them into this. Unless you've got them, Nicole.
Yeah, I posted the links.
And the extraterrestrials in the Hudson Valley. I see you got some aliens in back of you there, Andy. That actually was a great book. I got to interview Strieber.
Oh, really?
Whitley Strieber. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his, interview is in that book. And again, an author that I read when I was in high school.
Communion.
I never thought that
Everyone's
I would be able
read
to talk
Communion.
to Strieber.
I've not.
Yeah.
You haven't read Communion?
Communion.
I've got it.
I mean, there's
like right here.
I've got it an
right
audio
there.
book, and I've not even listened to it.
one of the most profound abduction cases ever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Right
And
there,
it's just
right there in the cradle of the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard some of his stuff on Paul Sinclair's Truth Proof. He's been on there a couple of times, I think. So I've listened to him and watched him. I just need to get round to start listening to the books now. It's just easier to listen to him with the job that I've got. So I will get there. But I just wanted to ask you, do you get any animals coming through? But before you answer that, do you ever get any, not so much demons, but like tricksters pretending to be something they're not? And then once you're in the communication with them, it kind of like transpires what's going on. And then if you've got the people that are sat there waiting, what happens then?
I can't say that I've actually dealt with tricksters. I will say I dealt with people that weren't so nice. I think in the afterlife, spirit itself is who they were in life. If they were a nasty person, well, you're going to have a nasty spirit. I don't think immediately we go to the other side and there's angel wings, right? And you're just going to be this loving person. I mean, you do bring who you were with you. Yeah. And when we go into these places, sometimes I feel like we do encounter. I'm not going to say like they're negative. They resonate different, right? On the scale from high vibe to low vibe.
Yeah.
So where they resonate is who they are. I mean, we've gone into places and immediately gotten, cursed at through our recorders or through Staticom or whatever we're implementing. And we know to back off. We know to leave, the room if they don't want to be bothered. I know in the Patchett house in the basement, there's something a little low vibe there. And we've gotten grunts and we've gotten stuff that would really scare you. But then again, when you're doing an audio and the guy was a nasty person in life, they know if they come through on that audio device and say, devil or demon, it's going to jolt you. You're going to be like, oh my God, you're going to run out of, but like who's, really to say, like, there's times when I say like, maybe they're just trying to get you the heck out, and they know by saying that it's definitely going to do that.
Yeah. Scare you off.
As intuitive, as a medium, as whoever you are, when you encounter anything that you feel is low vibe, get out. You don't force it. If they want to shut down communication, you walk out. If I'm doing a reading for somebody and somebody comes through that seems troubled or is a lower vibe, I have the opportunity where I could shut that down, or I could try to find out, well, why, like what's going on here. Sometimes there's mental illness that comes through where the person might have been like a schizophrenic, and there's multiple things kind of firing back and forth. But there's stuff like that. But I can't say that I've came into a place and I've went toe to toe with a trickster spirit. I'm not saying that they're not out there. I just haven't had that happen with me. I definitely know that there's low vibes out there, and we just try to avoid them. And if they need space, we give it to them. Yeah.
Thank you for that. But the first part of that, do you get contact with animal spirits?
There's been times where in my mind's eye, I'll see a horse and I'll say, I see horses on this property, or I'll see cows. And now there's a condo here. There's a condo complex, but I see cows in a field. I'll bring that up to the docent or whoever we're investigating with, and they'll be like, well, we actually sold off a part of, the property, and they did have cows. I don't communicate. It just don't work for me. What like the animals are saying. I do work with people that are very good at that. And that's a whole nother thing. You have to train yourself and you have to learn. But I do see them. I do see them, or we'll be doing a reading for someone and there'll be a like a lab at someone's foot. I'm like, did you own a lab, like a chocolate lab? Because he's dark and he's at your foot. And their dog passed and he was a chocolate lab. So that's how I communicate, and I bring forth animals through the readings.
Yeah. No, thank you for that.
You got it.
So that actually reminded me of the story about the Patchett house and the thing in the basement. Do you remember that one time that everything was F-bombs and everything was like very negative there? So why do you think that sometimes when we go, we encounter something like crazy negative like that, and then other times we're talking to the little boy or Emma Patchett or somebody perfectly lovely?
I just think it's whatever energies around us at that time. When we're in that basement seems like it has that energy. It has like that low vibe feel when like you go in there. There's somebody who does not want you down there, who kind of wants to be left alone, and now we enter their space, and that triggers them like it would you if I showed up in your living room, and you didn't know who I was, and I started asking you all these questions, and I have 6 people with me and tape recorders and lights. Like, get out. And then I think that's how they start, well, what do I need to do to get you out here? Get out. And we don't know how they know how to vocalize themselves and put themselves on tape. So maybe a scream might sound like a scream, but it's them just talking. I mean, we could all guess like this is a really heavy growl, or maybe they're trying to communicate and it's coming across that way, which we take as they're angry. They don't want us there. We will get out. And that's what we did. We were very respectful when we got that communication, where it was you, Tim, and myself down there, and we heard the feet shuffling down the stairs. The motion sensors go off, and something scurries into the corner. Motion sensors go off, and then Tim is running that was a DR60 session. And through the DR60, we hear, and, out, and like, we let maybe 3 or 4 responses come through like that, and we're like, upstairs we go. And that's what we were. That little boy never was downstairs. That little boy was upstairs. That little boy was over by the tree. So I think different things kind of linger in different places. And I'm not saying that they're stuck there. It's a place that they felt attached to in life, and in death, they can show up there. So when we go down there, it's most like that phone call to the other side. Like, there's people here and they're asking a question. Do I want to answer them? And that little boy has that same option. Do I want to talk to them? They're asking, there's a little boy by the tree. Yes, there is a little boy by the tree. I'm not a huge advocate in people being stuck. I do feel that spirit chooses to communicate with you, that consciousness is there. Because I've been on investigations where George, Washington was never even a part of. But when we start talking about George Washington, we start getting revolutionary comments. And there's nothing there about the revolution. Same thing with my grandmother, how she came through in a Staticom session in a private location in Morris Plains, New Jersey. My grandmother lived in Fairview, New Jersey, which is about 40 minutes the other way towards the east. But Ron's running a Staticom session, and my grandmother's voice comes through in her voice and says, "Richard, I love you, feel it." Now, my grandmother has nothing to do with this family, but came through at that location for me. So I don't feel spirit just needs to be at that location for them to communicate. They choose to communicate with you. So when we go into the Patchett house and we build that bridge with energy that we want to communicate, we establish those intentions there. That's that phone call to spirit. So you'll get a whole lineage, like ancestry, like that timeline of all people from the Patchett house. It's up to them if they want to drop in and make their presence known. So that's why Lisa was picking up on that man who was in, what was that? Like the front parlor room, who was like really like a party kind of guy. And we had the little boy at the tree from a different time era. And we had the spirit in the basement that was just kind of like, like a low vibe. So it was like, you got who wanted to communicate then. And then you'll go back to the Patchett house a month later, 2 months later, and you might get different people. Like I remember the last time that we went to the Patchett house, we didn't get the little boy. The little boy didn't come through, but we were getting other people. So it's always whoever wants to come through at that time. It's like that phone call. And that's how and that's just my, opinion. I know a lot of people have different one, and that's totally fine. That's just what I feel.
Yeah. Quick question. Sorry. So when you go to these places and there's all different spirits in different parts, say it's a building or if you're outside in a forest, wherever, do you think the spirits are all there in the same? I'm going to use the word dimension, just for argument's sake. Or do you think they're all in different dimensions and then not interacting with each other and they don't know the others are there? They're just trying to communicate directly with you.
Yeah, I almost would like say it's like an ocean, right? Like an ocean of energy, different levels, right? Different levels. And wherever they resonate, that is where they are. So I don't think they're just all on the same plane, seeing people from the 1800s with the 1900s and the 1600s. It's like an ocean of energy, right? So you go to the top water column, the sun is shining. That's like where you would see your ascended masters. Like that's where angelic and that level is. And then you go through the entire, 200, 300, 400 feet of water, right? And it gets really dark at the bottom. That's how I feel the spirit world is. Yeah. And when we tune in, we're tuning into that energy. And if you're a high vibe person, you attract the higher realms. If you're a low vibe person, you kind of attract the lower level realms. And that's where I always say going in, if you're not mentally there, if you're depressed, if you're under the influence, you start attracting the lower vibes. Okay. And this is where the darker stuff is. When you investigate and you're wearing a shirt with, Satan or, or something where you want to communicate with that's what you're going to get. Yeah. So when we go in and we're, communicating with that higher realm, that's what's there. We all have that option, that, ocean of consciousness of, spirit is there. And it's just who you're vibing with, who you're connecting with. If you're a high vibe person, you're going to get spirit from that. If you're low vibe, you're going to get the darker stuff. So in the woods, when I go, I'll, if there's an old foundation, like here in the town that I live, there's tons of mining history. Rockaway, New Jersey was huge in the early 1800s for mining. And there's still the foundations. When I walk in the nature trails by me with my kids, there's the foundations. So I'll start, opening up and spirit comes through and immediately I'm picking up on the miners. I'm picking up on young children that were in the mines. And I started sketching an 11, 12-year-old boy. I'm like, this is a young kid that was in the mines. Again, talking to the historians later on, I found out that, families did send young children into the mines to work, especially if their father was injured. They would have to supply family funds. So children died, men died. And again, we're just walking through the woods, I'll sketch a Native American. That happened at the Conjuring House. I was up at the Conjuring House almost a year ago. And I felt attracted to the woods in back of the house on the right-hand side. And John Zaffis was with me. We, walked out and he's standing there. He's just watching me sketch. And I sketched a Native American bald head with 2 feathers coming off the side. And there was a man there who was part of the Conjuring House who, looked at the sketch and he goes, "You drew a scout. That's what the scouts would have looked like in this area." And they were known to be in that section of like the woods back there. So again, going to the Conjuring House where you expect real dark stuff, I picked up on a Native American that came through and wanted to make his presence known. Yeah. So that's how spirit comes through.
Sorry. Excellent. Sorry, I just dropped some and scared myself. Sorry about that.
What's your favorite place, would you say, that you've investigated so far?
Well, I hate to, it's not like I hate to say, but Nicole, with Full Moon Paranormal, the Columns Museum, because on my birthday, I feel like I communicated with Abraham Lincoln. And the Patchett House, because I'm talking a lot about the Patchett House. I love the Patchett House because of the many layers there, right? The many layers that the Patchett House has. And 3, the Ringwood Manor. And the Ringwood Manor was a place that Hans Holzer investigated in the late 60s. So when I was there with a Phasma box a few years ago, I asked the spirits, "Do you remember Hans Holzer?" And through the Phasma box, and in like an Austrian accent, you hear Holzer. And I was like,
Oh,
wow, again, asking a name, right, for spirit to come through. And I believe we had a response from Hans Holzer himself in his accent saying Holzer. And that is just so random to come through the Phasma box at that point in time where it's like, wow, we're at the Ringwood Manor, a place that he investigated, and his voice came through when I asked, does anybody remember Holzer? So I have to give you 3. I have to say, the Columns Museum in Pennsylvania, the Patchett House, and the Ringwood Manor would be like my top 3 places that I would go back to right now. Like if you were ready, Nicole, I'll be in my car right now going.
Girl, go to the Columns.
Come on. Come on, Andy. Maybe you hop on a plane and we
hop on a plane. A couple hours. We got Hans Holzer that came through the Phasma box.
Yeah,
so we were
and
doing
with that accent, like Holzer. I was like, wow.
Holzer. And guess where it was?
Where?
Patchett House.
Patchett House. Well, he investigated a ton of locations in the Hudson Valley. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't even doubt that he investigated the Patchett House, because that's why
he did reach out to Alexandra and ask her.
Because when I read a lot about Hans, that's why he lived in the Hudson Valley. He did so much work there. That's where he wanted to live. And I mean, that entire Hudson Valley is very steeped in paranormal folklore, extraterrestrial folklore, from seeing entities, from light beings to ghost and haunted locations. It's a place that has attracted me time and time again. So I love going to the Hudson Valley.
I live here, so I'm always here.
Yeah, well, you're a stone throw away. Like I said, Andy, about a half hour, I'm in the Hudson Valley. So
when we do the sky watches, I'm gonna watch Pine Bush.
I love Pine Bush. That's a fantastic town. That's what inspired my book, the extraterrestrials in the Hudson Valley. When I went there and I started talking to the waitresses and the police officers and the firefighters that all had experiences with seeing craft. There's extraterrestrial encounters. There's alien abductions. It's these credible people that when they tell their stories, they have everything to lose and they want to share their stories because they're that touching. They're that incredible. Yeah. When you had 200-300 people look up on the thruway and see a craft the size of a football stadium hovering above them, like that's a mass sighting. Like that's just not 2 people. That's an entire group of people seeing something amazing, and how could you say that's not real? People having physical marks and scars from the abductions that they claim that they had, Streeper's accounts alone are just amazing, with what these beings are telling him and what these beings are telling us. So it's just a place I love going to, and Pine Bush should be on everyone's map. You got to go to Pine Bush if you're in the area. Mm-hmm. Pine Bush Museum too is a great place to stop.
Cool. Shall we do the thing now because it's just gone half past? It's 25 to. So how are we going to do it? What exactly do we do?
Let's do like 15 seconds of like hardcore mental projection. And then everybody in the chat try to guess the thing that we're thinking of. And Rich, you too.
Okay.
But don't put anything in until the 15 seconds. Yeah. So we'll start. I've not even got a clock. Oh, I've got my watch. I'm just looking for something with the second hand on it. You can just
watch the live in the live counter in the corner.
Oh yeah, could do. Didn't think of that. Right, you ready?
I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to. I can't figure out how to join the chat. But I'm gonna. Am I able to? Maybe I could.
You can open it on YouTube and then do pop out chat and then close YouTube. Otherwise, you end up with a load of feedback. That's what I
I'm going to write it down.
the chat.
All
I'm
right.
going to write it
I was gonna
down.
say, you don't have to put it in the chat. You could just say it at the end of the 15.
Yeah.
I'm going to write it down.
All right.
Right. So we'll start at 15. Yeah. So
Mhm.
you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's see what people are going to write. Has Richard worked with Dave Schrader? No, I haven't had the opportunity yet. I would love to work with Dave.
Are we done?
Yeah. All right. Everybody put in the chat
Evening.
what you think.
Yeah. Don't show yours yet, Richard, until
Okay.
we get. Couple of interesting ones here. Wait.
Vinny gets a bell.
Yeah. Don't put the next one. Oh, I've starred that.
Oh, sorry.
You'll understand why. Tennis racket and a bucket.
Tennis racket.
I'm just putting everybody's guesses up. A jug of something.
Don't say what. Crochet ghost.
Crochet ghost.
Cup.
Which is available from Nicole at Full Moon Paranormal. Get yourself your crochet ghost.
One minute in a rush, you'll be okay.
Stuart clarified, just a jug.
Do you know what? Because there's something I've not shown you yet, Nicole, and I've got them at the side of me. So, a banana. Shut up. Banana. No, it's definitely not banana. Sorry.
No.
I hope Richard's not wrote banana now after me laughing at that.
Oh, banana.
All right. You ready for the reveal? Rich, what'd you guess?
I say a pen.
A pen.
See?
No. The reveal?
Yes.
The object?
Shall we? I can point to it, can't I?
Yeah, but you can't see it.
No. So this.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah. So it's an alien in a jar, which I acquired on my travels a couple of months back. One of the guys in the chat was selling it, but I can't even open this bag now. So when I went to Rendlesham at weekend, I was given these to. I can keep all of them, but I was going to do a giveaway with them on Friday for one of them. So where people was putting a jug, a cup, and all that kind of stuff. So this, when they change the logos, this is the initial original logo before the one in the top right hand corner. So you can see it's a cup.
Oh, cool. The alien in the jar.
Oh, so
on the cup. That's why I was laughing.
Cup, but I didn't know there was a cup, so I wasn't thinking cup.
I didn't even tell anyone that I had these. The only person that knew, these 2-3 people. One of them's still on the cruise. That the woman Elaine who got them printed. Mike, who met up with in Rendlesham, and Alex, because Mike picked them up from Elaine to give them to me. I don't think any of them are in the chat, so no one would have known. But Lara, Paranormal Pixie, put that. Stuart put a jug. Close. Margaret put a cup. So it was kind of close.
Blue said, I was going to say that. So that's why you have to say it. You have to go with your intuition. Richard was saying that.
First.
If you feel something, say something. Don't, edit yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We always said that at investigations. You always say, if you feel something, say something.
Yeah. And me and Nicole, we agreed on it about half an hour before we went live.
Mm-hmm.
Thereabouts. So, sorry, Richard.
Hey, it's a good guess.
Yeah.
I
I
lose the
did
game
write
show.
it. Yeah, I did write it with a pen. So, I'll give you that. Because I actually wrote, don't know if you can see it.
I actually was going to draw a pen with a cup next to it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with the pen. So, but again, don't edit yourself.
No. Say what you say, literally.
We have a couple questions.
Yeah.
You want to do the questions?
Yeah. Do you want me to put them up?
Yeah.
So I'll do the first one if you want. So this is from Vinny Durant, and he's asking, Richard, does he have dreams linked with spirit and visions?
Yeah, I have a lot of vivid dreams that happen when I'm going to locations. All of a sudden, I'll have a dream that I'm there, that I'm in the room that I'm in when I get to the place, and it's like a deja vu moment where it's like, wow, I've been here before. I've had cases where a person's loved one has come to me, and I see them like they're right there with me, right there in the room, sitting down on a chair in front of me. Yes, it's very much vivid dreams, visions through my mind's eye. When I'm at places, I'll go for a hike in the woods and stuff comes to me, or I'll be talking to someone when I'm working, and all of a sudden in my mind's eye, I see their loved one that comes through, and I always have to ask them, hey, do you know what I do? Because I want to kind of like tell you something, but if you don't want, and again, you can't be leaky with your mediumship. You always have to ask the permission before you start telling somebody these heartfelt things. But yeah, so sometimes when I'm with people, things come through, and also visions, and dreams are a huge way for spirit to come through and tell us things, because we're asleep. We're not left nor right brain, right? We're just in that REM state, so spirit can come through and they can convey what they want to. That way it's easiest for them to come to us in our dream states.
Yeah. No, see, I was just going to say, I've had like lucid dreams and vivid dreams, but never. There's only 2 dreams that I can recall that have family members that have passed.
Yeah,
I think they just don't want to know me. They're probably looking for staying away from him. But I don't get nothing at all. None of me get grandparents. So
there's meditations that you can do before you go to sleep that kind of trigger a vivid dream like that let your ancestors know to come through. There's one where you're walking up steps while like you're laying in bed, just kind of envision yourself walking upstairs, walking up a huge flight of stairs, and you see a light coming through the cracks of a door, and you open the door and you walk into the light. And when you're in the light, you kind of see a beautiful garden, and you sit down, there's a bench there. And when you sit down on the bench, you ask spirit to come close. And that kind of is a good way to trigger a dream with a past loved one. And that's a technique that I use when we do meditations in my classes, of how we start bridging the gap between us and the spirit world. And I start telling people how to open up their intuition, is imagining that bench and that beautiful place and asking spirit to come close. And when you're going to sleep and this is kind of happening, it's getting you settled. It's raising your vibrations, and it allows spirit to come in. And you could always say, like, come visit me in a dream, whoever it is. Or if you're going on an investigation, can you kind of help me? Or spirit from the location, are you able to help me? Are you able to guide me, and you'll be really surprised. I mean, some people don't remember too much of their dreams, and again, it's working at it. It's learning how to be a vivid dreamer. And there's a great series of books by a guy named Robert Moss that if anyone wants to learn about how to dream and how to have vivid dreams like that, Robert Moss is fantastic to read because he offers a lot of advice on that.
Yeah.
And the synchronicities that we see when we're in the waking world, how that's linked to our dreams.
No, thank you for that. I know I used to do, I still do quite a bit of meditating. I usually do it before I do the live stream, but the last few that I've done, I've been busy beforehand, so I've not had a chance to do anything. I need to get myself sorted out and get back on it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time. You know, I'll have people in a class and they'll start falling asleep. They'll be like, I'm falling asleep. I'm like, well, you're doing it right. You know, you're getting yourself comfortable, just too comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just learning like when that point is. And it does take time. But as long as you're doing it, there's people that don't meditate and they don't put it into their routine. And it's amazing, your blood pressure and everything else that it helps. So even if you could devote 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, it's huge.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Are we keeping you up, Nicole?
No, I just forget to breathe sometimes.
All right.
I was too close to meditating, okay?
Yeah, I'll let you off. You kind of answered this, but I'll put it through anyway. It's from Vinny again. Does Richard have I can't say that word. I can say it in my head, but yeah, just can't say it. Dreams.
Yeah, I'll have dreams that really give me nudges. Like at like work, I remember one dream I had like years ago where I'm like, I see all these boxes and all these boxes are like piling up and piling up and piling up. And then in like another frame of the dream, they're all gone. So like these like boxes are all missing. And about a week like later at work, we had an issue where boxes went like missing. And we were trying to find what like happened to them. So it was something that kind of came to me where, you know, it didn't hit me then, but when the boxes were missing, I'm like, hey, wait, that, you know, dream I had, you know, I had the same thing about places that I went to where I'm driving my car and I'm like, I feel like I've been here. And then I think back, I'm like, this was the dream I had like 4 nights ago. I'm on this country road. There's a huge kind of hairpin turn and I go over a bridge that has a little creek. So right then and there, it's like, I've been here, but I've been here in a dream. And like the hair stands up when you have those synchronicity, I guess would be the right, you know, word to use. These moments where it just like hits you like, I've been here before. And you realize it was through the dream state, which is just so profound.
No, thank you for that.
Has there been anywhere that's like really called to you, like a specific place to go investigate or do a gallery reading at?
Well, we were talking about it before, the Twain House. I would love to do the Mark Twain House. I'm a fan of Twain. I have all of his books. I have his early writings. And when I was in the area, I went there and I did a tour. And just doing the tour, you could feel the spirit in the home. So that has been a place. And I've actually had a few dreams of just roaming its hallways. It's huge oak stairways, right? And you go up to the top where his office is, and it's the billiard room where he had his pool table. And you could still smell the cigar smoke because he smoked, I think they said between 8 to 10 cigars a day.
Wow.
He loved his cigars and cats. But when you're up there, you could still faintly smell that cigar smell. And that's one place that I would love to go back to. If there's a thing of past lives, I almost feel like I've been there. Especially from that time period. And Twain, while he was living in that house, experienced so much loss, so much grief, where you could feel that could just be contained in there. And it's definitely a place that calls to me, and it definitely is called in dreams. So I might have to send them a letter and be like, hey, listen, I know we're not the ghost hunters. I know we're not taps, but we would love to have an investigation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
We'll be there with you.
Yeah, as we were saying before, we were saying about the Twain House. When I went, even when I'm just stood outside on the porch and that, I just felt drawn to it. Like I don't know, not that I felt part of it, it felt part of me. If that makes sense. There was something about it that was like I just didn't want to leave. I could have stayed there for days, just standing outside. I know it's a bit weird, but it was just the energy about it is just so drawing. That's all I can explain.
Well, I think a lot of people that have fascinations with time periods in history, there's reasons why. There's an author called Brian Weiss, and he talks about past lives. And that is what I feel definitely, is part of our fascination. There are people that they do like the reenactments. They're at Gettysburg. They're doing American like Revolution stuff. Well, what really like gives you that passion? And it's these people. How I feel is it's a past life memory. It's something that you love doing. It's your identity, and it's something that you bring through each one of your lives. People that are like 10 or 11 years old, and this child has a fascination with the Civil War. Well, what is about the Civil War that's so fascinating? And he's drawing like Confederate generals, and he knows like Longstreet and Jackson and Lee, or it's vice versa. He's drawing the Union Army and guys with the blues and the bayonets. Well, what gives this child this information? Wow, like what really sparks his interest? And that's where I feel that a lot of us who are in this field and that do historical things is, it could be something from a past life that we bring with us, that part of our soul continues. And the work of Weiss, if you read many of his books, I think he has 6 or 7 out himself, and he talks a lot about that. And understanding why we have our fears, fear of heights, fear of water. These are things that also stem from a past life. And sometimes once you do the regression and you understand this, that's when in your present life, you can get over that fear and over that anxiety. So that's a whole nother show we could do.
That's made me think now.
Fascinating.
That's Brian Weiss, though. I would tell anybody, if you're interested in learning more about that, read Brian Weiss.
Perfect. Thank you.
We have another question from Blue Shift. Question: has Richard investigated Mount Shasta?
I would love to investigate that. Mount Shasta alone has so much paranormal activity, energy vortexes. I would love to go there. The only thing is I'm all the way on the East Coast of New Jersey. So maybe one day I could take a trip out that way. But from Sasquatch encounters to aliens to energy beings to people just vanishing and walking possibly through a vortex and just maybe entering another realm. There's so much folklore, even from the Native Americans, knowing that Mount Shasta is a sacred mountain. And, the locals knew not to go beyond the tree line. That is what separates supposedly this whole other world that's in Mount Shasta. I read a few very, very good books about it. And it's definitely on that list of places that I want to investigate.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take you guys with me. Come on, let's go to Shasta.
Yeah. I've got my passport, and it's like, I want to go. I just need to come back to America.
Mm-hmm. Gettysburg is on there.
It won't be long before I come over. Guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
might not go back, so one of you might have to hide me.
For harboring a fugitive, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Won't be for a couple of months till we get started.
Till you hit all of the hot spots on the East Coast of the US.
Yeah. Whilst running from the FBI and God knows who else.
All right, last question.
All good.
It is.
You want to do this one, Andy?
Yeah, can do. So this is from Lara. Do you ever have places or situations that you want to close off your psychic senses?
Yes. I work in a hospital, and at that, it's a cancer center. And
Right.
places like the hospitals and cancer centers, they see a lot of death. Okay, there's a lot of sad emotion. So I definitely learned a lot through my mediumship classes on how to close yourself off and kind of like block it, because you can't always be open. You'll be so depleted in your energy. And this could be said the same if, you know, you go to a funeral and you go into a funeral parlor. A lot of people know what you do now, and they're like, "Oh, can you give us?" You know, I don't do readings there. It's I am off, and it's a visualization for myself. It's almost like an open and close sign that you put on your storefront, and you just put the close sign up, and you visually see the close sign up, and that shuts me off. That literally shuts me off. And when I'm open for business, I put the open sign up and I visualize that opening up the storefront, and that allows that spirit communication to start happening. Because these are places that would deplete you very quick. Especially when you're working in hospitals, mental institutions, places where there's a lot of energy that's all over the place. And especially in places of great, you know, death. So those are kind of places that you want to kind of shut yourself off. Unless we go into a battlefield and I know what to expect, that's when I'm open. But then I'm very cautious to what I'm reading, and I keep it kind of like you have to keep yourself in check of when you're there, how your energy's feeling. If you start feeling yourself getting like depleted, like at Gettysburg, you can't be on for 3 days straight at Gettysburg. You're going to feel very depleted. You got to be very selective. Okay, I'm going to turn myself on for a little bit. We're going to do this investigation. And then kind of take that time. You meditate, you restore yourself, because you can't deplete yourself.
Yeah.
So I would say there's certain situations where you visualize yourself turning off.
I just think it's strange that there's so many people in the medical field that are so into the paranormal, because all three of us are. I work medication, so, and obviously Nicole works in a pharmacy and you work in the hospital. So it's, I've never thought of it. When I'm working, I'm going to the hospitals and institutes and clinics and all that. I've never even thought of like looking around to see what's going on. I just go in, do my job, and then come straight back out again. It just never crosses my mind to do anything else.
And I'm always kind of the first person in my hospital in the morning. Right. I go in at 5 o'clock, and I'll tell you, I hear footsteps. I hear footsteps in the hallways. I'll see things out of the corner of my eyes. Like I'll see like a patient walking, and I'll walk down by like the cafe, and I'll just kind of double check, because sometimes patients do come in early, and they really fray me when they turn around. They're like, "Hey, hi, how, you know, whoa." I'm really seeing things clear now. You know? But, you know, sometimes I'll follow somebody down, make sure they're not lost, and all of a sudden there's nobody there, you know, and it's a lot of stuff like that. Yes.
David with the laser said, Richard, if you're going to go anywhere, come here. Millions of places to visit within a short drive.
Yes.
Where's that?
The UK.
Coming right now.
England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got my kayak. I'll start paddling.
Nothing's more than... From the top of Scotland to the south of England is probably about, I don't know, 10, 11 hours. I've never driven it. I don't know. But it can't be more than that. It ain't that big. So
I'm driving 10 hours this weekend to go pick up my camper.
Really?
Nice.
What?
Cool.
Round trip or each way?
No, one way.
Wow.
And then I got to drive 10 hours back from Indiana.
Wow.
Good luck.
Are you going to investigate? You're going to investigate things when you're out there.
I don't know. I might have to look on the way, see if there's any interesting places to check out. Oh, look who popped in.
I know, Ronan's in.
Ron and Lourdes.
Cognac Paranormal, Ron and Lourdes.
Dad, the spirit artist, amazingly talented and a great soul.
Ron and Lourdes are really good souls too. So
they are
top people.
It's always an honor. Always an honor to work with those two.
I'm gonna get to see them in September because they're coming over.
Yeah, they're coming across the pond.
Yes, and it's literally up the road from me. It's probably like a 40-minute drive. So
they're international now. They're huge.
Yeah. I can't wait to meet him. Really can't. So it's going to be great.
He's a good guy, and
Yeah.
he'll tell you everything about the Staticom and amazing thing what him and Lourdes do. So.
Yeah, they've been on, and some of the recordings and that have come on are just like, oh my God.
They're great.
People walk out of those sessions, their minds are blown because their relatives have come through. They hear their voices. I mean, it's
you just can't process it.
But when they come on, there's explaining, and then they came on with, and I'm rubbish with names, the other two that they work with.
Tony Rathman and
Tony
Rathman.
Yeah, that's and
the
four of them are
amazing. Yeah.
And they're explaining how it all works and how they all got involved, and I'm just sat here like my head's just gone.
And he didn't say much that
spirit.
No, just completely gone. Absolutely.
And again, for Spirit to put people on their paths, I mean, from Tony and Cherie, who live in Arizona, to Ron and Lourdes, who live in New Jersey, they're working together, and look at what has come out of that. It's amazing collaboration of Staticom.
Yeah. So
we are getting to the end of the time.
We are at the end.
Rich, you want to plug anything you have coming up?
Well, you can find everything we got going on at richardmoschella.com. I have everything there. So just log on to www.richardmoschella.com. You could also go to the store. I have all my books available. You could also book a private session if you're interested in that. And we also have an events page. So there's a lot of things going on, a lot of different kinds of mediumship events with Lisa Morrison, the Mediumship Trio, and even Staticom events that are coming up with Ron and Lourdes. So if you're in the North Jersey area, the Hudson Valley, you could actually come out in person and see us. If not, I do Zoom readings. So even if you're across the pond or across the United States, we could connect and I could do a spirit art session for you. So
excellent.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. It's been amazing. It really has.
Yeah, I think everybody really enjoyed learning about spirit art.
Definitely. I was saying to Nicole earlier about if you was to come on with Ron and Lourdes, and we do a full panel, get some of the team on from Full Moon.
He wants the whole.
That would be fun.
The whole steakhouse.
It's either 10 or 12 people, so
be like the Brady Bunch. It'll be a bunch of boxes,
Yeah, just be a big, definitely. But
I would love that. So
excellent. Yeah, so get you all on and just I've been mind blown yet again.
He doesn't know what he's
with all of you on. I'll just be like
everybody together.
Gone. Yeah. So they're up for it. Awesome. Cool.
Let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
The girls have no choice. I'll drag them on.
Yeah, I'll let Nicole sort it out, and then I'll send some dates over, and then we can all choose which one we want and just go from there.
Sounds good, guys.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you again, Rich, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to change the outro. I'm going to play so for the outro, I'm going to play the intro for the new podcast that I started doing on Monday. So this is going out every 2 weeks. The first one was live, and then they're going to be pre-recorded. It's non-paranormal, so it's going out every other Monday. So one Monday recording to go out the following Monday, and then it's going to go out on podcast as well. So you might recognize some faces in there. I don't know if you've seen it, and there's a few people in the chat because it's called That Monday Face. So because we're talking about different things, so everyone has a different face for a Monday depending what they're doing. And that is it. We are back on Friday with Nicole
Gilbert from Spooky Ventures Inc. on TikTok.
There you go. So so he's going to be on, and Nicole needs to send me all the details over so I can get the thumbnail made. So see you on Friday, same time. Thank you again, Richard, for coming on. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate that.
hopefully you'll stay on once we've gone off air. I'm just going to play the outro
Sure.
and then end it, and then have a chat if that's okay. Cool. Right. So don't call me for this intro outro. It's the best it's going to get. So enjoy it.
Roll the tape.
Roll it.
There it is. Right. So see you on Friday 8:30. Take care and goodbye.